You are listening to Now or Never. The choice is yours. To connect with the program today, please call us at 1 888 346 9141. That's 1 888 346 9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is Karen at shinenowornever.com. Let's get back to this week's show. Here again is Karen Wright.
Listeners, welcome back. And if you just jumped in and turned us on, we were listening and interviewing with Robin Johnson. She's the Heart Whisperer. She does these amazing retreats called Brave Hearts. And we were talking during the break how it was funny because the affirmation card for the day was, I am brave. And she runs these whole brave hearts, and you have to be brave. Like she mentioned during break, you have to be brave in order to open your heart, open your soul, and allowing that healing to take place. So listeners, I invite you to be brave. This is a great time to be brave. We're in the end of June, and July is almost here. So let's be brave and step into July. But I want to introduce our next guest to Dr. Jeff O'Driscoll. During his 25 years as an emergency physician, Dr. Jeff saw souls leave their bodies at death and communicate with them. His otherworldly experiences began in childhood after his brother died in a farm accident. After decades of silence, he now shares his experiences in his award-winning book, Not Yet, and as an international transformational speaker. After stepping away from clinical medicine, Dr. Jeff now serves clients in 10 countries, working as an intuitive mentor, connecting each soul to their highest self and their most authentic life path. So, Dr. Jeff, thank you for being with us today.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I was just honored both of you wanted to be together. Robin and Jeff go way back, and they're just great friends. And I met Dr. Jeff through Robin at her Brave Heart retreat. Is actually where I first listened to Dr. Jeff when he spoke to us women there. And it was, his story is I love his story. He infatuated me when he was speaking and telling me about him able to see people after, in the emergency room. So Jeff, I want you to share a little bit first about your experiences. Like, I know in your bio, you talked about, first of all, your brother, his sudden death and that that happening to you, and that things started happening at that time. So if you could share with the listeners what you went through as losing your brother, your feelings and emotions, and how that opened your world to something new.
Ironically that you should say it that way, because I didn't realize that it had opened my emotions at all. In fact, I thought that it seemed to close them down, but I didn't realize that for many years. Mm-hmm. I was just a month from my 12th birthday when my brother died, when he tipped a tractor over. And I saw the agony of my parents, but I didn't think it really had any impact on me. I thought I got through it, emotionally unscathed, if you will. But then I started to get messages. And when I was 16, I was driving a Volkswagen Bug much too fast on a narrow country road after dark with two friends in the car, none of us wearing seatbelts. And a voice spoke to me and said, "You have to slow down." And for some reason I listened. It was like the voice wrapped itself around my soul and I couldn't resist it. I slowed down. I went around a corner. I hit a Cadillac head on. And there was a lot of damage, but nobody was injured. I think I might have died that night if I hadn't have heard that voice. And I later came to realize that that was my brother speaking to me. And it was about 20 years after he died that he came to me one day and he said, "You have to go talk with our mother because there's things she's never told you about my death." And you can imagine that kind of got my attention. So I went and sat down with my mother one day and we had a conversation. She told me that day for the very first time, she said, "I always knew where you were in the house before Stan died because I could hear you singing. When your brother died, you stopped singing." So I started to realize how much his death and my separation from him had shut me down. I remember one day, I was thinking about my friend's new house and how nice it was. And I remember thinking, I don't want anything in my life, person or thing, that I care enough about that it can hurt me when it's gone. And I remember stopping and thinking and going, whoa, that's not normal. And that's when I started to realize I had some attachment disorder from being separated from my brother at his death. And I wasn't going to allow anything to hurt me that way again. And it was that time that I started to begin to take down the wall around my heart, because I built this big wall to protect myself from ever being hurt again, not realizing that the same wall keeps you from loving or being loved in a meaningful, deep way. And I was still working through this when I met Robin. Robin and I came together with a few other friends at this little gathering one day, and her friend, Michelle, greeted me, and I gave her this little, one of these kind of things,
Side hug.
and Michelle said, "Oh, Jeff, a side hug. You're getting better." And so I was healing. I was working on that. And as a physician, I have literally opened a person's chest and wrapped my hand around their heart. And so I have a very clear perception about the heart. And in my medical training, I had a very traditional Western medicine, left brain training, mind up here, heart down here. Don't let them connect or interact with one another. And but yet I still had these experiences. People would come to the ER, and I've had people in the ER that passed away, and I saw their souls leave their bodies, and they spoke to me before they left. And so I always had this connection, notwithstanding my medical education, that helped me to start to connect the heart and the mind back together and to take down that wall and heal again.
So the first time, Jeff, because when you're saying that, like, my listeners are probably like, what? You're in the hospital, you see these souls lift, and they're actually communicating with you. So they're probably blown away. The first time this happened to you, was it like, what is going on here? Or was it like the peaceful calmness when you just know? Can you describe that for people?
It's always been accompanied with profound peace. It feels like you're in the place you're supposed to be at that time, doing what you're supposed to be doing. It feels like everything else, all the trivialities of the world fade away, and you finally have a clear vision and a clear understanding of who you are and where you are. And that's been my experience whenever it's happened to me. It's always been uplifting and peaceful and enlightening.
So as the spirits are leaving the body, are they communicating with you? Are they asking you to tell their loved ones certain things? Or I know they're not. I know when I've heard you speak before, it's almost like their lips aren't moving, but you know exactly their thought process, what they're saying, that oneness. Okay, this is what the oneness is all about to me.
Yes, it's very clear. It's usually without words, but it's a more clear communication than you could ever affect with words. Sometimes it actually sounds like a voice speaking to me, and sometimes it's just a profound knowing and a flow of knowledge instantaneously that you have an understanding. Usually, in my experience, they've been messages of profound gratitude. I had one woman, she rose up out of her body and she stood in the air above the gurney, and she thanked me profoundly for what I'd done, which to me seemed like I'd done almost nothing. I wasn't responsible for her care. Another physician was taking care of her, but I happened to be in the room and I connected with her on a spiritual level. She was unconscious. She was intubated. They were doing chest compressions on her when she reached out and started communicating to me, and nobody else in the room knew what was going on. And when she left her body, she thanked me for being there, even though I thought I had done nothing. Sometimes the smallest things we do are profoundly important.
So with all your experiences that you've had, you wrote the book, Not Yet. And the Not Yet book, do you have some of your experiences in this, or what is your book about?
Yeah, the book is about many of my experiences in and out of the emergency department. it kind of centers around a dear friend of mine. His name's Jeff Olson. Many of your listeners might have heard of him before. He was involved in a horrible car crash 24 years ago. The crash took the life of his wife and his 14-month-old son and nearly took his life. In fact, it did take his life, and he came back. His wife met him above the scene of the accident and said, "You have to go back and raise our other son," because they had a 7-year-old who survived. He was flown to my emergency department. And when I went into the trauma room, a bunch of other physicians and care providers were taking care of him. And standing above him in the air was his deceased wife, who had died at the scene of the accident. And she communicated with me and thanked me for the care that Jeff was receiving. And some of the stuff in my book is about the friendship I have with Jeff in the 24 years since that happened.
We had the privilege of having Jeff Olson on our show, I want to say 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and he spoke about that. So listeners, go back a couple of recordings and you can listen to Jeff and his story. And I love the fact, Dr. Jeff, that that's how you two connected, was through that experience, through his wife, and you were able to be there and with his wife who had gone.
Yeah, he had his out-of-body experience at the scene of the accident, but I knew nothing about it. He was unconscious when he got to the ER. And I had my experience in the trauma room with his wife, and he knew nothing about it because he was unconscious. Mm-hmm. It was a month later that we had our first conversation when he'd had several surgeries and he was awake enough to talk. And that was our first conversation. And we shared with one another these experiences, and we've been friends ever since.
That I love, my heart just like swells when I listen to stories like this, because there is, it's crazy how our scripts or stories are already, to me, written, and we don't know it. And as things happen into our life, we might question, like, why is this happening to us? But yet you created this huge friendship with Jeff Olson, and things happened and people just mingle into your life because of circumstances that have happened to us, and not all good, right? But out of some of the yucky stuff comes the cherry on the top, the dessert, the beautiful, the blissfulness of it. And it, to me, is through relationships. And you also, Jeff, you talk about, your website talks about spiritual or intuitive mentoring. So tell me what that's about.
I didn't speak about my gifts, if you want to call them that, for 20, 25 years. And after I stopped seeing patients in the emergency department, something kind of clicked, and I knew it was okay to share some of my experiences. As I started to share some of those experiences, I saw how they affected people. They validated people's own experiences and emboldened them to talk about some of their difficult times or their spiritual experiences, sometimes ones they couldn't explain. And I started to realize that I was getting insights into what to say to these people and how to help them. And it just kind of grew from there until I started to do it on a much more regular basis. And now I meet with people mostly via Zoom because they're on 5 continents around the world, and help people connect to their own divine nature, to their own divine source, and to begin to trust the direction that comes into their lives and into their heart, and to go forward with it.
I think that's amazing. You and I had lunch together, I don't know, maybe a year ago, where we spoke, because I love this kind of stuff. When I hear that a medical doctor is connected to his heart and soul and has had these experiences, to me, I want to learn more about you, because, doctors sometimes they don't connect like that. Like you said, you're all right brain, right? Left. Right brain. There's no left brain. Sorry, doctors out there. I'm just saying, from my past experiences, that's how I kind of feel. Like they're doing their job. They're very intelligent, and they know exactly how to heal someone. And that's what their goal is. That's what they're going to do. And I'm sure with being a doctor, you have to learn to detach, because there's so much pain, sorrow, and hurt that you experience every day. And my heart goes out to the doctors because of that.
And if I could comment on that, most of my most profound experiences in the ER came when I was not the physician in charge of the patient. There was another physician there taking care of the patient. I didn't have to order meds. I didn't have to intubate or do a procedure or some other way try to save this patient or help them. Somebody else was taking care of all of that, and I could just connect and have this profound spiritual experience. When I was the one that was trying to resuscitate the patient and keep them alive and do all those things, I was usually so much in the present physical medical aspect of it that a lot of times the spiritual stuff got pushed aside. And I think it's important to remember that and think about that, because there is a way for us to slow down a little bit, to connect with spirit and to benefit from spirit even in our most physical lives.
Yes, but that's a really good point. I mean, when you're on spot on and it's time for you to jump in and help save a life, everything's out and you're in the moment concentrating on what you've been taught, how you've been trained. Everything comes into foreplay on what's happening here and how to heal and how to save. And that's so important. And I appreciate that. But that's interesting to me that you were when you did have those experiences, you were stepped back. You didn't have that responsibility. And so you're connecting with the soul and heart. How long ago has it been since you've retired from the ER?
I stopped seeing patients 5 years ago. And since then, things have really transitioned. It was only about 9 months or so after I stopped seeing patients before I'd published my book. And I was actually in an airport with a stack of books fresh off the press in my bag, going to my first formal speaking engagement to talk about these things. And when a couple sat down next to me in the Delta Lounge and started asking the usual airport questions. Where are you going? What are you doing? And when they found out I was speaking and asked me what I was speaking about, when I told them what I was going to be speaking about, this young woman's whole expression just changed and she got really serious. And she said, my grandfather just died and he's come to me a couple of times. And my initial thought was, why would you share something so intimate with a total stranger? Ironic thought considering where I was going and what I was going to be speaking about, but that was the thought I had. And I told her, next time he comes, ask him what he wants you to do. And she just resonated with that. She just lit up. She knew it was right. She took one of my books and went and got on her plane. I went and got on my plane. I'd been an emergency physician for 25 years. I estimated I'd seen in excess of 60,000 patients. On the plane to Boston, Spirit spoke to me and said, you will help more people with this book than you helped as a physician in the emergency department. Gave me a whole new perspective about the next chapter in my life. So I do something different now. Now I try to help people heal their souls. For 25 years, I helped them heal their bodies. Now I try to help them heal their souls.
Listeners, we have been listening to Dr. Jeff with his ER emergency stories, with his speaking and the communication with outer body experiences and where he's at now connecting with the souls. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Robin Johnson and Jeff Olson. Or Driscoll. Sorry.
And we're clear.
No worries.
I had Jeff on my mind.
Dr. Jeff.
I'm better if I just say Dr. Jeff, because then I'm not going to say Jeff Olson. Oh my heck.
Jeff and I speak together a lot. And so he started calling me Dr. Jeff, and that just kind of stuck.
No, I think that's, that helps me because I'm like going, oh, blurp. There we go. But it's all good. So when we come back, I'll let you both take the time to give out your contact information. So if you know your website, things like that, how people can get a hold of you. Okay. And then we're going to talk a little bit, if you're okay, about the network, the Wholeness Network. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Great. Thanks.
Okay. I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah. That's
Us on the advisory board. He helps us. He helps guide us.
And make sure you invite people to your Bravehearts thing again.
Oh,
yeah. I think that'll be really good.
Great.
So if it's Sunday, is it just once a week or how are you setting it up?
Yeah, they'll get content to watch every Sunday, but then we'll meet every Wednesday night for 2 hours, and it's an 8-week program.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. That'll be awesome.
Oh, I'm excited.
That'll be good.
Put
20
together
seconds.
these. Oh, sorry.
Do we lose it, Erin?
All right, here we go.
Okay.
You are listening to Now or Never. The choice is yours. To connect with the program today, please call us at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is Karen@shinenowornever.com. Let's get back to this week's show. Here again is Karen Wright.
Welcome back, listeners. We've had the privilege of talking to Dr. Jeff about near-death experiences, him saving people, their physical body, and now his role now, the new chapter in his life, saving souls. His book, Not Yet, which I read and I enjoyed thoroughly, and I was intrigued. And because of the loss of my daughter, him losing his brother, I felt just that connection, not even knowing this person. And the relationship has built. And it's crazy how things like that turn out. And just that knowing, there's times when I feel my daughter, that Kalina who has passed away, and I just feel her. I know she's with me. And my book, Now or Never, Shine Baby Shine, she pushed me to write that book, to get it out there, to heal those that have lost a child or a loved one. And Dr. Jeff has done the same thing with his book, Not Yet. And the connection that you just have with people of loss of those that are so close to you is, to me, automatic. In my oneness, that's how I feel. I'm just like, woof, drawn to them. But that's just me. But before we continue on, I would just want my listeners to reach out to Robin and to Dr. Jeff. And so I'm going to ask Robin, if you could share with your information again, how people can get a hold of you, and also for your Brave Heart retreat that's coming up this weekend, how they can sign in with that, because I totally recommend it. You guys, you will love it. You will love Robin, and the insight that you will have will give you the courage to heal that heart. So Robin.
Thanks. You can just go to my website, theheartwhisperer.com, and contact me there. My email is just robin@theheartwhisperer.com. And the registration has got to happen really quick if you want to join us on Sunday, but we would love to have you there. A lot of people just live kind of on a little bit numb, and this is really the chance for you to open your heart and live full out, enjoying every moment of life. That is what your life is for.
I love that. Thank you. And Dr. Jeff?
People can find me at jeffodriscoll.com, but if they don't want to try and spell my name, helpingsoulsheal.com. It'll take you to my same website.
That's great. I love that. Helping Souls Heal, because that's what you're doing. This is great. Now, the two of you, and I know there's 4 or 5 other people, you have started a network. Let me think here. Wholeness Network, the Wholeness Network. I would love you to explain to the listeners what that is all about. I'll leave it open to either Jeff or Robin.
Yeah,
They are in this together.
Go ahead.
Well, I have another business partner, Michelle Wingle, and she and I really started this up together. Jeff is on our advisory board and helps us a lot as well. But we just felt like so many people were suffering and maybe don't always have the courage to go in and see a therapist or start a big, therapy or healing program. And we wanted to be able to put tools in their hands, something that they could just do at home daily. And so at the Wholeness Network, we have a library. You can subscribe to it for $49 a year. It can be accessed by any member in your household. But in the library, there are so many tools, whether it's a video, a meditation, a worksheet you can download. We have podcasts with a million amazing speakers like Dr. Jeff and others. We have our own version of TED Talks, and just so many resources that I feel like people can access in the privacy of their own home, just to begin that healing process. And wholeness is really about embracing all of who you are. And that means the hard things and the good things in your life, and so many times we just want to take those hard things and just avoid it or shove it down. All that pain we feel, just ignore it. But really the freedom comes as we embrace that these hard things are the things that have taught you and helped you grow. And so let's look at what it takes to heal those painful things so that we can move forward with all of who we are and really live fully.
I think the information that you're providing on your network is absolutely will help people with moving forward. And I have written on my mirror, as my listeners know, I love my affirmations, and I can't even see my face because I've got words written all over my mirror, but it says, I am who I am today because of my past.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I really believe that through the trials, through the loss, through everything that we all experience, because we do. Life is not for sissies. And I say that when I close my show. This world is not for sissies. And so my listeners listen to me say that every week, because it's not. But whether you go through your hard times or whatever, you're learning and you're growing, and you have the choice to find that courage and to be brave, to start healing your heart, to start healing your soul. Dr. Jeff, so when you're talking about the soul healing, do you believe, because you have the heart whisperer sitting right next to you, do you believe the heart and the soul, you're the soul therapist, she's a heart whisperer, how do you bring the two together?
Well, I'm of course encumbered with medical knowledge and the physiology and the anatomy and all that kind of stuff when I think about the heart. But setting that aside, from a spiritual perspective, the heart and the soul are one. When we step into our soul, we step into our heart, and vice versa. When we become one, when we become whole, then we function in a realm that we're connected, and we trust the impressions that come to us through our heart and through our mind and through our soul.
I appreciate that. I also have written my heart, mind, body, and soul are one. And I believe in that. I think there's a word, I talked to you a little bit before the show started, the word acceptance. I think in life, I personally have struggled with accepting the things that accepting everything that's happened to me, right? And even though I've done all this healing work and where I was and where I am now, I still sometimes feel that doubt. We talked about the ego getting in the way and accepting who we are. What does acceptance mean to you, Robin? When you ask someone, what is acceptance? What does it mean to you, acceptance?
Yeah. For the healing, for emotional healing to happen, there's really 3 steps that need to take place. And the first is just awareness. We have to be aware of what's my heart doing? What are those emotions I'm feeling? And what's the event in my life that has caused this pain? But then the second step really is acceptance, because when we continue to fight against it, if that hadn't have happened, if this person hadn't have, all those regrets, when we're still fighting that situation happened, it's really hard to progress. And so acceptance is really that second critical step. Once we accept this is the past, it doesn't mean we accept that what happened was good or right. Mm-hmm. We're just saying there's nothing I can do about it, and this is in my past, and I'm going to quit fighting that it even happened. I accept that is part of my story and my experience. Once we can accept that, now we are open to change. We can have that change of heart that we need. And once we are able to change that heart, then the third step ties back into what Jeff was talking about. The third step then is to align ourselves back with truth. So when we can get the heart and the mind aligned in truth, to me, that is the inner peace we're all looking for. But so many times these two things are arguing, right? There's a little war going on between us. And so acceptance is really critical. If I have clients that aren't ready to accept it, it's hard to move them forward.
Listeners, I want you to just take a time, lean in with your heart for a moment, lean in with your soul. Have you accepted your past? Have you accepted where you're at today? And why is that so important? Robin hit it straight on. You have to be able to be aware, accept, acknowledge, aware, and accept what has happened to you, and then find the truth. You have to let it go and then find your truth. That's the beauty of this life, in my opinion, is we get to find the truth, find what makes us tick, find what makes us happy, and live our truths. And I believe our truths evolve as we emotionally, spiritually grow and evolve. I totally believe that. Both of you have been amazing, and I'm just so excited that you were here today on my show. And if there's anything, a message for our listeners today that you could share with them, something to help them just lock in about the heart and the soul becoming one, Jeff, what would that be?
It's critical that people realize that they are divine beings presently inhabiting physical bodies. And we tend to diminish this in many ways. We think of ourselves as being somehow less than that. We think that being human and having human feelings and desires and regrets somehow makes us less. But being human is on the divine path. It's toward our future. It's where we're going. We came here to be human. If we're not going to be human, there's no reason for us to be here. Being human does not make us less divine. Accept your divinity and be courageous about it. It's not pride to accept your own divinity. Pride is refusing to accept the divinity of others.
I love that. Jeff, you also say, I heard you when you were speaking, I am enough.
Yes, I was speaking, I was getting ready to speak to a large group once, and I connected, I centered, and I asked, what is the message? What should I say? I take this very seriously. Mm-hmm. And the message came very clearly in 3 parts. Tell them they're enough, tell them they're divine, tell them they're loved. And I often give that to my clients as a meme that Robin put together for me, for them to put on their mirror and say it every night and morning until they believe it.
That ingrained it in me when I heard you speak. And I have used that with my yoga teaching when I'm doing my meditation at the end of the yoga, repeating, I am enough, I am divine, I am loved. And I think that's very important words. And so these messages that each of you are sharing continues to ripple. It's a rippling effect. And that's what I love about this whole energy and spirituality and emotional effect with the healing of our souls. It's a rippling effect. Listeners, we have had the privilege today to listen to Robin Johnson, the Brave Heart, the Whisperer, Brave Heart Whisperer, Heart Whisperer, and to Dr. Jeff with their insights of life and where they've been and their journey that they continue to move forward on. Remember our affirmation, I am brave. The breath is a gift of life. Choose now and live. Remember, the world is not for sissies. We are here to experience our own story as we each walk our personal journey. Have an amazing day, and thank you for choosing to be here now. Until next week, sending you all love and light.
And we're clear. Great show. Pleasure working with you today, Karen.
Thank you, Erin. See ya.
Take care.
Okay. Good job, you guys.
That was amazing. You're incredible.